An asylum seeker row hits another Welsh community. Hundreds show up to a meeting about plans to house up to 70 in a Wrexham village. Sentenced, the teenager planning a bomb attack at a major Cardiff concert in an obsession with Southport killer Axel Rudakabana. A tender trim, the hairdresser helping neurodivergent customers feel more at ease in the salon. And looking back at this much-loved mosaic mural still sorely missed after being demolished. Hello, good evening. Hundreds have gathered at a public meeting in Rhoslanach this evening after proposals to house up to 70 asylum seekers there. A former sheltered housing site in the village near Wrexham has been earmarked as a potential option. Our reporter Joanne Gallagher is there this evening. And Joanne, we've seen proposals like this divide opinion in several Welsh communities now, and it seems Rhos is just the latest.
Yes, opinion seems to be growing here in Rhoslanach, Katie. This evening we saw at least 500 people queuing to try and get into this social club in the village to get their questions answered. There have been lots of rumours flying around. People really don't know what the plans are here for the former care home in the centre of the village. People snaked around the village here trying to get a seat. They braved the cold. They started queuing at 4. It was due to start at 4:30. It's just finished now. People are starting to leave, but it was so busy they had to take the meeting outside because they just couldn't possibly house everyone inside this social club. I've spent the day here in Rhoslanach, and this is what people have been telling me.
Nobody has lived here for more than 20 years. This former sheltered accommodation for the elderly closed its doors and remains dormant, but it could be used to house around 70 asylum seekers. Over the road from it is one of Wales's oldest abattoirs, and its owner is against the plan.
I have to raise serious concerns about the asylum seekers coming into my village. It's very serious, and my concerns are who is going to be in charge of these people, who's going to vet these people, and what safeguards are going to be put in place.
Now, the idea to use this building has come from Clear Springs. They're a private company that have a contract from the UK government to find places to house asylum seekers. I've asked them to comment and they've refused. I've been to the Home Office and they've told me they want to use buildings like this one to stop asylum seekers being put up in hotels. And they also want them to be housed in other areas of the UK.
At the moment, nothing is known in this community. We can't say which countries people are leaving or who would live here. But in general, Wrexham has welcomed asylum seekers and refugees, offering a safe haven to people like Max, who fled Afghanistan in 2002.
Most of the people who come as asylum in this country, they escape from the war. They are well-educated people, they're nice, they're kind, they're friendly. Sometimes we're wearing different clothes. It doesn't make us to be a different human being. We're all the same. Nobody's better than anybody. Like Shakespeare said, if you cut me, I'm bleeding too. It's mean we're all the same.
Just 4 miles away in Rhos, the people I've spoken to are sympathetic, but they have worries about how their village will cope with more residents.
The best place, in a personal opinion, would be in the city itself of Wrexham. They've got more facilities in the area. There's more, exactly that, there's more for them to do.
So you wouldn't be against welcoming asylum seekers to North Wales, you just wouldn't want them here in Rhos?
I think you're correct in saying that. It's just that, again, like I say, it's just the size of the village.
Wrexham Council has officially opposed the plan, but there's a long road ahead.
Now, this meeting has been called by Wrexham councillors, and I'm joined now by one of them, Councillor Dave Bithell. Thank you for joining us this evening. What have people been telling you in here today?
Well, quite frankly, they've said no. They don't want an asylum dispersal up in Rhoslanach.
And why is that?
I think it's a very emotive subject. Obviously, it's a very tight-knit community. And I think it's come across really, really loud and clear tonight that, you know, with the volume of people that we've had, the strength of feeling's been really, really strong. And they say no, they don't want it as an asylum dispersal. I have to say, though, the comments that we've had back from local people, they do want to use the facility, but for something else.
Now, there's been a heavy police presence here today. People have been snaking around the corner. Such is the strength of feeling amongst many in the community, not all, but amongst many. What can you do to stop it? You've objected to it as a council.
So as a council, we formally objected. So there'll be a formal objective going into Clear Springs, who work on behalf of the Home Office. I would urge local people to write to our local councillors and to write to their MPs and MSs. To be fair, the MSs and MPs have been here today. I think they're on our side. I think we're all, to be fair, I think all politicians are on our side, and we all say no.
But if we don't house asylum seekers in Rhos, in Wrexham, in North Wales, where do we house them?
Well, that's the difficult conundrum, I think, for the UK governments. I think what I'm particularly disappointed, and local councillors, is the way this consultation has been carried out by UK governments, because they only give Wrexham Council 5 days to formulate a response, which is totally inadequate.
And you have welcomed refugees before.
Absolutely, you know, we've got a real good working relationship with Welsh Government on the humanitarian, the likes of the Syrian refugees and the Ukrainian. We've welcomed them, but we've done that in a proper manner. We've housed them in sensitive locations, and they've been welcomed into the local communities.
Well, thank you for joining us this evening. There's still a lot of work to be done. It's early days here. This is only a proposal. Wrexham Council formally objecting to the plan. They do not want to use this centre to house asylum seekers. The vast majority of people here don't, but I was stopped outside the meeting by one family from the village who said to me that they would welcome people here. So the community undoubtedly divided, but the vast majority concerned about this proposal.
OK, a debate that's going to continue, I'm sure. Joanne, thanks very much indeed. Next, a teenager who planned to bomb a major Cardiff concert and attack a dance school in an obsession with Southport killer Axel Rudakabana has been detained. 18-year-old Mackenzie Morgan from Cwmbran got hold of an Al-Qaeda manual after being inspired by the Merseyside murder of 3 young girls at a dance class in 2024. A judge at London's Old Bailey today sentenced him to 14 months in youth detention. Mike Griffiths reports.
This is Mackenzie Morgan, 18 years old and now convicted of possessing a document useful for terrorism. It follows an investigation that revealed his obsession with acts of appalling violence. The sentencing hearing at the Old Bailey heard how in Snapchat messages Morgan had repeatedly praised the Southport attacker Axel Rudakabana. He'd shared images of the killer and said he wanted to carry out a similar kind of attack. Further messages revealed he planned to bomb one of the Oasis concerts in Cardiff last July. He'd also attempted to make the deadly toxin ricin. Today, Morgan was sentenced to 14 months in youth detention.
There's no clear evidence from any of the reports or any of the other material that you have any specific political or religious or racial ideology. And that leads me to conclude that you have no terrorist connection or motivation. Your motivation appears to have been to emulate the extreme level of violence used by Axel Rudakabana in the Southport attack.
The alarm had been raised by one of the recipients of Morgan's messages, along with a psychiatric nurse who he told of his wish to hurt others. When police arrested him at his home in Cwmbran, they found a terrorist training manual on his electronic devices. He'd also searched online for local playgrounds and a dance academy.
This complex and deeply troubling case represents a tragic and cautionary tale. Mackenzie was not born bad. He didn't come into the world wanting to be a terrorist or aspiring to one day kill people, let alone children. As a teenager himself, when he committed the offence, he was inherently vulnerable to the malign influences that prey on our young people today, online, on the internet.
Tonight, Morgan is beginning his sentence in youth detention. He faces further restrictions on his movements and use of the internet on his release. Mike Griffiths, ITV News.
The Welsh Government has set out how it plans to make former coal tips safe, with more than £80 million being used to help local authorities. Vital maintenance work is needed on over 400 sites across Wales, with the first phase of funding lasting up until 2030. Well, Megan Boot is live in Cwmtelery tonight, where there was a major landslide in 2024. And Megan, this is a long-running issue, but perhaps now a bit of a roadmap on how to make these tips safe.
Thanks, Casey. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, this is all about keeping communities right across Wales safe. We are here in Cwmtelery, and back in 2024, a devastating landslide came right along here, having a huge impact on the people who live here. Now, since that time, more than £500,000 has been spent to try and sort it out. This landslide was caused by heavy rain and the impact of climate change. But of course, Cwmtelery is not alone in living with our industrial heritage. There are around 800,000 households that do so, and there are more than 2,500 disused coal tips across Wales, and they are assessed. They're categorised depending on that risk, that potential risk that they pose. And today is a bit more information about what sort of work goes in to making things safer. Here is the Deputy First Minister.
So the £80 million that I'm announcing today is just the next phase, but we've actually committed far more, into the hundreds of millions of pounds, and we'll keep on doing this because actually we've got thousands of tips to work through, and then the maintenance of them for years to come. So it's not a fix and move on, it's a fix, maintain, monitor, and keep these communities safe and keep investing.
And it's a sort of multi-layer government approach. So yes, you've got the Welsh Government, but also working alongside local government as well as Natural Resources Wales. Some of the funding today announced is for sort of key projects in places like Merthyr Tydfil, Torfaen and Rhondda Cynon Taf, amongst others. Now, the government described this as a record investment, this whole project. But tonight, the Welsh Conservatives have questioned that and suggested that the amount is not as much as Labour initially thought this whole scheme would be. But look, at the heart of this is about keeping communities safe, that making sure that the past that is on their doorstep does not affect their present.
OK, Megan in Cwmtelery for us. Thanks very much for that update. Still to come on the programme, we're taking a look back at the much-loved mural that was controversially knocked down and replaced by a shopping centre.
And it looks as though we're going to have a messy mix of weather types over the weekend. But what's it doing where you are? Join me later to find out.
But first, after years of debate and political squabbling over new agricultural subsidy arrangements in Wales, the Sustainable Farming Scheme has finally launched this year. Farmers will have to make decisions over whether to join that new system or accept a 40% smaller payment than normal from the old scheme. But data obtained by ITV News suggests thousands of farmers in Wales may not yet have accessed the tool that allows them to calculate the change to their subsidy payments under the new scheme. Hamish Owskerry has more.
Two farmers, both with a huge decision to make this year for the future of their businesses. All farmers in Wales now stand at a crossroads. And like many, Nigel isn't yet sure if he's ready to take the leap into the unknown by joining the new Sustainable Farming Scheme.
I think there is a danger that some people, if they don't take the right advice and read the rules properly, that they could set off down a certain path from which they can't turn back. The purpose of a farm is actually to produce food as well as environmental benefits. And farms in the rural area are the centre of the community. There's the vets, the machinery dealer, the guy who supplies all the medicines, the guy who supplies the feed. All these people are dependent on farms for their living. And if you push things too far, then that could disappear.
And do you think that could happen with Sustainable Farming Scheme?
I think it's a risk.
SFS, or the Sustainable Farming Scheme, heralds a whole new era for agricultural subsidy in Wales after more than 7 years of debate about post-Brexit arrangements. But even as the new scheme finally starts, data we've obtained from the Welsh Government suggests that thousands of farmers across Wales may still not know exactly how it will impact them financially. In response to a Freedom of Information request, the Welsh Government told us that their Ready Reckoner online tool, launched last July to help farmers with their subsidy calculations, has only been downloaded at least 7,300 times. Those figures may not be the full picture due to people's web browser settings, but there are more than 15,000 eligible farms across Wales, suggesting many are not yet prepared for this huge change.
I'm really encouraged by the number of people who have actually used the Ready Reckoner. We know people are really interested in this, and they are interested because they see it as a way to sustain the livelihoods of their farms and also to do good things in terms of their animal productivity, their arable farms, and also the right thing in terms of climate resilience and biodiversity in the environment as well.
But the National Farmers Union Cymru says despite the improvements made, there is still a lot of apprehension in the farming community about whether to join the scheme.
There are farms who are saying it will not work for me because it will mean reducing my stocking levels or taking land out of production. That would be wrong, in my opinion. We cannot allow a contraction in this industry. This industry needs to grow. Global population is set to reach 9.5 billion by 2050. All those need to be fed.
Back in the beautiful Monmouthshire countryside, there are still many unknowns for Bryony in terms of the new scheme's potential impact on her business. But not wanting to be left behind, she has decided to join.
For me, absolutely key is, will there still be flexibility as we move into the scheme going forward? It is crucial that we don't have mandatory tick box exercises because every farm is different and every farm changes throughout the year. I do feel positive going forward because I think we need to look at the things we can control, we adapt those and we work on those as we can, just for our own sakes.
By the 15th of May, all farmers in Wales will have to make their choice, and if they want to join the SFS, they will need to prove they've been taking its required actions since New Year's Day. For some, it still feels like a leap of faith, and once they're in, there's no going back.
Well, Hamish is at the Senedd for us this evening. And Hamish, the whole question of implementing this scheme has been politically fraught, hasn't it?
Yes, Katie, you'll remember those huge protests just outside here 2 years ago when farmers came from across the country to rail against these initial proposals. The Welsh Government would say they've made significant changes to the scheme since then. Ultimately, SFS still accepts that farmers in Wales need reliable financial support in order to continue producing food for all of us amid all the uncertainties they face, from bad weather to disease. But for the first time, really, this scheme also says to farmers, we want to incentivise you to do more for the environment, whether that's promoting biodiversity or tackling climate change. Ultimately, this is therefore the biggest change in farming for a generation, according to the Welsh Government. Some would say even bigger than that. And therefore, perhaps it is fair enough that there are some teething problems, that perhaps it's taking a little bit longer for farmers to fully understand what they're being asked under the new scheme and how much money they're going to get from it. But what I'm hearing from the farmers that I've been speaking to is really that they want reassurance that this scheme can develop over time, that as the impact of these huge changes begin to be felt on rural communities, that ministers in this government and, of course, the next will be willing to evolve the scheme to suit both environmentalists and farmers alike.
OK, Hamish, thanks very much indeed. You're watching Wales at 6, still to come on the ITV Evening News.
Coming up on the programme, the West Midlands police chief is to retire over his handling of the decision to ban Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from a match against Aston Villa last year. Kemi Badenoch says Nigel Farage has done her spring cleaning for her following Robert Jenrick's defection to Reform UK. And we meet the Auchinleck Talbot player gearing up to face Celtic in the Scottish Cup this weekend. So join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Now, there's nothing quite like that feeling of a fresh trim, is there? But for people who are neurodivergent, a trip to the barber's or hair salon can be an overwhelming experience. Well, one woman in Rhyl has been setting aside dedicated slots to provide a calm and quiet cut for those with conditions like ADHD and autism. Rob Shelley has been finding out more.
Now, normally, Nick's Barbers hears a mixture of music, banter, that metallic clip of scissors, all sorts of background noise. But then she started thinking about the people who found it really hard to walk through that door in the first place.
ADHD, autism, non-verbal, so they're getting labelled. So everyone's different. Anxiety, mental health, we're all different. And I see it being overwhelming for someone to walk into a barber shop, which is so busy, so they've had the opportunity to have that one-to-one service.
So since the turn of the new year, Nick started to try out something new. For a few slots during the week, those blinds can be shut, the Sentry light machine switched on. And a much calmer world emerges for people who are anxious or have neurodivergencies like ADHD or autism. How does it feel then when you're in the absolute opposite of what you normally are and it's silent?
There's no pressure. There's no pressure. And you've got the calm, the quietness. There's no pressure. And just like one-to-one, and you haven't got people looking or people judging you, that will start a panic attack or anxiety attack. So you know that you've got that safe space.
To cut someone's hair is an act of trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
At which point I should say Mike in the barber's chair here is Nick's partner and our unofficial hair model. We didn't want to cause anyone any extra anxiety in that barber's chair.
I've tested it and it's just gone amazing.
Wow.
Fully booked last week, fully booked this week.
There is no such thing as normal, but whatever normal life is, normal life for some people can be incredibly hard.
Yes, very, very hard. If I can help in any way to make it that little bit more easier for a haircut, to make them look smart and make them feel good in themselves.
It's only a slight change, a little extra thought. It's already helping. Rob Shelley, ITV News in Rhyl.
Sounds like a great initiative. Now, it was once a powerful piece of public art. The Chartist mural in Newport spanned 140 square metres and was made up of more than 200,000 pieces of tile and glass. But it was controversially demolished to make way for a shopping centre, and it's still sorely missed in the city, as Adiola Dewis has been finding out.
Created in 1978, this massive mosaic depicted a key moment in the city's history, the Chartist Uprising of 1839. It was the work of the celebrated artist Kenneth Budd, and this mural really was a labour of love.
He might do a face in one day, and I don't know how many faces there are in that mosaic, but there are a lot of them. So, yeah, you're talking about probably about 3 or 4 years' work.
It had stood for 35 years, and Kiefer loved it. But in the 2000s, the artwork was in jeopardy.
It was under city planning to demolish the old John Frost Square and rebuild a new shopping centre.
This?
Yes, which we're sitting in at the moment.
Yeah.
There was a lot of voices that spoke up about preserving the mural and saving the mural and relocating it because of the significant historical message.
Thousands of people signed a petition to save the mural, and protesters gathered in John Frost Square, urging the council not to demolish the artwork. As a professional filmmaker, Kiefer lent his support to the campaign. On the 3rd of October, 2013, he found himself filming footage of the mural being smashed to smithereens.
I had to lie flat on the ground with my mobile phone and film it, and the first thing I saw on the camera was like a murder scene, you know.
The council argued that relocating the mural would have been too expensive and may not even have worked. So the mosaic came down and Friars Walk went up.
I feel saddened, to be honest. Saddened that it's lost, because it was part of my childhood, you know, my growing up experience, my experience with my dad.
And you can see much more on that story and other lost landmarks in Vanished Wales. That's tonight, straight after the news here on ITV Cymru Wales and on ITVX. OK, time for a look at the weather now. It would be great to have some sunshine this weekend, wouldn't it? So let's get the details now with Philippa Drew.
A clear start makes way for a day of ancient discoveries. TUI sponsors ITV Cymru Wales weather.
Hello there, I hope you've been having a good day. Weather-wise, it's been reasonably quiet away from the west coast, but as we head into the weekend, things are looking a little on the changeable side. Still some bright or sunny spells to be had, but equally some showers or longer spells of rain, and we'll also have a fair bit of mist and fog to contend with overnight as well. And it's all tied up with a very weak area of low pressure, continuing to weaken in fact as we head into the weekend, but a front never too far away, and that will provide the focus for thicker clouds, some showers or longer spells of rain, and of course the moisture to give us that overnight mist and fog as well. Out there at the moment though, this is how things are looking. So showers still out towards the western fringes and further showers drifting northwards as the night wears on, more especially affecting the likes of the Welsh borders, where they could for a time merge to give a somewhat longer spell of rain. But in between all of that, a good deal of dry weather, and under clear skies we will likely see quite a bit of mist and fog developing. Nevertheless, it should be a largely frost-free night, and certainly for towns and cities probably hovering at around 4 or 5 Celsius by dawn. So tomorrow morning, a misty, murky start for some, perhaps a quite cloudy and damp start for others, but I think for all of us, as the day wears on, a generally improving picture. Still 1 or 2 showers just affecting the very far western fringes of Wales, but elsewhere the emphasis very much on dry conditions, some bright or sunny spells, and temperatures very much on a par with today, so highs around 8 or 9 degrees. But as we can see on the Outlook chart, that fairly changeable weather continues as we work into the new week. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors ITV Cymru Wales weather.
And that is all we have time for this evening. Megan Boot will be back here in the dry with your late update straight after news at 10. But from all of us on the Wales at 16, thanks very much for watching. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.